Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Ardis, host of the Dr. Ardis Show, and this is a very special presentation. This is actually going to be piggybacking off of a PowerPoint presentation and podcast I did a couple of years ago that still to this day I get tons of comments about. People everywhere I go and do presentations, audiences and their members will come up to me and say, "Oh my goodness, the Parkinson's presentation you did a couple of years ago is the greatest presentation you ever did." Well, this is an updated version of all the answers you need for Parkinson's disease. So it's been such a popular topic. You can still go to the resources tab of the Dr. Ardis Show and download the old PDF, which is the PowerPoint from a couple years ago on how to beat Parkinson's. This one we're titled Answers to Parkinson's. And so new research studies we're going to be showing you, new information you're going to be seeing, and then our recommendations and our updated recommendations on supplements, dietary recommendations to improve your or your loved one's Parkinson's symptoms. All right, so these are things you're not going to hear from your medical doctor. Most likely, they usually, unless they're watching the Dr. Ardis Show, don't have a clue about the stuff I'm talking about. So you're going to maybe want to ask your neurologist if any of the things I'm talking about and showing you is right for you or your loved one who might be struggling with Parkinson's. So there's going to be a PowerPoint presentation here. This PowerPoint titled Answers to Parkinson's. You can get that downloaded for free at the resources tab of the Dr. Ardis Show. The whole PowerPoint presentation, which is 100-something slides, it'll be converted into a PDF. You can just download and share with all your loved ones. Everything you're about to see on the screen. All right, so I hope you enjoy this presentation. Follow along because most likely you or someone you know has been affected by Parkinson's, or you might be concerned that you've inherited genes they've wanted you to be afraid of might ultimately lead to you being diagnosed with Parkinson's and suffering with its issues in the future. So regardless, hang tight. You're about to learn a whole bunch of stuff you will never learn anywhere else. All right, let's dive into the presentation. All right, here we go. Title, Dr. Ardis' Answers to Parkinson's. Here we go. What is Parkinson's disease? This is per Parkinsons.org, by the way, so I think they might be an authority figure on understanding Parkinson's. Parkinson's disease, a neurodegenerative disorder that affects predominantly the dopamine-producing dopaminergic neurons in a specific area of the brain called substantia nigra. Don't forget that. Let's go back here. Sorry. Symptoms generally develop slowly over years. The progression of symptoms is often a bit different from one person to another due to the diversity of the disease. People with Parkinson's disease may experience tremor, mainly at rest, and described as pill-rolling tremor in their hands. Slowness and paucity of movement called bradykinesia and hypokinesia. Slowness of movement, limb stiffness or rigidity, gait and balance issues. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to bullet point number 2. Everyone's familiar most likely with the shaking, the trembling of Parkinson's. But number 2, slowness and paucity of movement, pausing, not movement, slow to move, called bradykinesia. Remember that word, brady, meaning multiple, kinesia. Bradykinesia. Don't forget that word because it's about to show up here more in this presentation. All right, the cause of Parkinson's remains largely unknown to medicine, although I'm going to show you what we know worsens it. The cause remains largely unknown. Scientists believe a combination of genetic and environmental factors are the cause, but they still don't know. Imagine this. Everybody who has tremors, pill-rolling tremors, anybody having slow movement of gait, imbalance issues, they're going to send you to a neurologist that still doesn't know what causes your symptoms. Isn't that amazing? Could you imagine taking your car to a mechanic shop that doesn't know what's wrong with cars? Has no idea what causes the problem with your cars? You might want to avoid those people who don't know what causes these problems. All right, treatment. Treatment options vary and include drugs, lifestyle adjustments, and surgery. While Parkinson's itself is not fatal, disease complications can be serious. Those disease complications, by the way, the inability to walk, balance, you might fall and hit your head and kill yourself. But the majority of the disease complications that end up being fatal are actually drug-induced side effects, which are the only treatments they're going to tell you for Parkinson's. All right, so from the Parkinson's Foundation, statistics are An estimated 1.1 million people in the U.S. are living with Parkinson's disease. This number is expected to rise to 1.2 million by the year 2030. Parkinson's is the second most common neurodegenerative disease after Alzheimer's. Nearly an estimated 90,000 people in the U.S. are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease each year, and more than 10 million people worldwide are estimated to be living with Parkinson's disease. You can see the American stats below. The incidence of Parkinson's in the U.S. A 2022 Parkinson's Foundation-backed study revealed that nearly 90,000 people are diagnosed with this condition every year, and this represents a steep 50% increase from the previously estimated rate of 60,000 diagnosed annually. Oh, wait, we need to go back to this slide. Look at the bottom. The study found that Parkinson's disease incidence estimates increase with age, starting at 65 years old. The primary risk factor is age. Parkinson's incidence estimates are higher in men compared to women. The increases in the incidence of Parkinson's aligns with the growth of an aging population. Parkinson's includes rates are higher in certain geographic regions, the Rust Belt, parts of the northwestern and midwestern U.S. previously regulated by industrial manufacturing, Southern California, southeastern Texas, central Pennsylvania, and Florida. So if you're worried about developing Parkinson's, you might not want to live in those areas or move. Medical News Today reports, how common is Parkinson's disease? Well, some estimates for people with Parkinson's in the United States reach 1 million. The World Health Organization reports globally 8.5 million individuals had Parkinson's disease in 2019. They go on to say that the prevalence of Parkinson's has doubled in the last 25 years. Interesting. So has vaccines. The number of vaccines given to all aged individuals. Is it possible to prevent Parkinson's? We'll read the first statement with a thicker line underlining it. This is per Medical News Today. Is it possible to prevent Parkinson's? It is not possible to prevent Parkinson's disease. I'm sorry, everybody watching. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Okay, well, if you want to hang out with the medical doctors, they're going to tell you there's nothing you can do about it. But they're going to tell you right after that, there's some behaviors that might reduce your risk, but it doesn't prevent it whatsoever. It's still coming. Avoiding toxins like pesticides, like Monsanto's glyphosate, exercising, following a specific diet, like the Mediterranean diet they reference here. If there's no cure, what is being prescribed, you might ask? Well, here's the Cleveland Clinic. Parkinson's disease medications. Levodopa and carbidopa are the two most commonly prescribed drugs for Parkinson's. Levodopa is the go-to treatment for Parkinson's disease per the Cleveland Clinic. It's a dopamine replacement agent. For most people, levodopa reduces the symptoms of slowness, bradykinesia, stiffness, and tremors. And you can see some of their brand names down there below. Cinemet, Rytaril, or Riteri. Remember, I'm the chiropractor. I didn't make up these dumb words. Rytari, Parcopa, and Divi are the brand names. Dopamine agonists are another type of drug. Healthcare providers may prescribe a dopamine agonist medication for the early stages, and these include the brand names below: Mirapex, Requip, and Nupro. And you see their generic names there. Pramipexole. There's that one. Enzyme inhibitors are another drug that might be prescribed to you per the Cleveland Clinic. Enzyme inhibitors like MAO-B inhibitors and COMT inhibitors slow down the enzymes that break down dopamine in your brain. This allows more dopamine to be available in your brain. The main MAO-B inhibitor medications are Selegalin, Carbex, and Eldepril by brand name, and Rasagalin. Azilect is the actual brand name. Those are the drugs you're primarily going to see prescribed to all Parkinson's patients. Well, what do these drugs do? These slides I took exactly out of my 2-year-old slide. These are the levodopa, carbidopa drugs. You see the images on there? These are the most commonly prescribed drugs for Parkinson's. These are the published side effects, toxic side effects of levodopa. Check this out. The drug they give you for Parkinson's most often has these published side effects per drugs.com on the package insert. Levodopa drugs cause uncontrolled muscle movements in your face. What? That's actually a side effect and published symptom of Parkinson's. Worsening of tremors. Oh my God, why would anybody on Parkinson's who's already tremoring want to be on levodopa drugs that cause worsening of your tremors? Severe diarrhea, confusion, hallucinations, unusual changes in mood or behavior. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Confusion and hallucinations is better than just shaking and being slower. Depression and suicidal thoughts. Severe nervous system reactions. There it is. There's the drug. Now, how about amantadine? This is the next drug that they talk about being prescribed. What are its toxic side effects for Parkinson's? If you look at these are the more common, straight from drugs.com, these are the more common side effects of amantadine. You'll see bladder pain, bloody urine, blurred vision, confusion, difficulty urinating, dizziness or lightheadedness. I'm not really sure that's good for somebody who's having balance issues and not able to walk. So these are the more common symptoms, side effects of these drugs. Dizziness. Yeah, that's probably not going to help people with gait issues and balance. Fainting. I don't think that's good. Falls. Why do you think Parkinson's people fall all the time? Oh, it's just an imbalance issue related to Parkinson's. No, the drugs they prescribe them commonly cause falls, fainting, passing out. How about the second to the last one? Seeing, hearing, or feeling things that are not there. Yeah, let's just make all these people paranoid at the same time. This is straight from drugs.com still. Uncontrolled twisting movements of the neck, trunk, arms, or legs. That is Parkinson's. These are the side effects of amantadine. Continued decreased vision or any change in vision, difficulty in coordination. Not sure this drug should be given to anybody who's having balance issues and coordination issues, which describes Parkinson's. But that's your Parkinson's drug. Now let's dive into some of these prescription levodopa and carbidopa drugs by brand name, and this is Sinemet. This medicine, this is the warning from drugs.com. This medicine for Parkinson's may cause some people to be agitated, irritable, or display other abnormal behaviors. It may also cause some people to have suicidal thoughts and tendencies to become more depressed. Well, people being depressed from being diagnosed with Parkinson's is one thing. How about prescribing a drug that makes their depression worse? Now look at this. Also tell your doctor if once you're on this drug, whether or not you're having sudden or strong feelings, such as feeling nervous, angry, restless, violent, or scared. Here are the very common side effects of the nervous system when you take this drug, Sinemet, for Parkinson's. Up to 17% of all people on the drug report headaches. Dyskinesia, an actual published symptom of Parkinson's, is worse. 16% of people just from the drug. Dizziness, 12% of all people. Up to 10% of all people have confusions, on-off phenomena, and bradykinesia. I just want y'all to know, bradykinesia, that slow movement of the body, is actually a published side effect in up to 10% of all people, 1 in 10 people for Parkinson's given the drug Sinemet. Psychiatric concerns include up to 10%, more than 10% will experience anxiety, insomnia, and depression. That's 11% of all humans in trials for this Parkinson drug. Up to 10% report hallucinations. Another 1% have suicide and dementia as published side effects of the drugs. GI problems, up to 30% of all people with Parkinson's, that's 3 out of every 10 will get nausea. Another 1 in 5 will be constipated and not be able to poop, which increases your risk of being diagnosed with colon cancer. And then for the skin, excessive granulation tissue disorders. Now look at that. That is a published side effect. Look at the image of this drug for Parkinson's called Sinemet. Cardiovascular issues, up to 10% of all people will experience and did experience in the human trials. Ischemic events, that's heart attack events. Orthostatic hypotension events. Oh my God, that's POTS. That's getting dizzy when you stand up. Peripheral edema, legs and arms are swelling. Hypertension, elevated blood pressure. Increased heart rate, irregular heart rate. That's AFib, bradycardia, tachycardia, hypotension. All 10%, 1 in 10 will experience these cardiovascular diseases. That of which all of you will be told once you are put on this drug for Parkinson's, you or your loved one will be told your new cardiovascular problems are age-related too, and they're just a part of your genetics. Nope, your neurologist didn't tell you. He's given you a drug that's going to create dermatological conditions, psychological concerns, cardiovascular disease. They didn't tell you. How about respiratory? How many of you knew that 1 in 10 people on this drug for Parkinson's will develop upper respiratory tract infections from the drugs? And how many of you old people are told, Oh, these old people, they just struggle with pneumonia. Of course they do. You're giving them drugs that cause pneumonia. Look at that, aspiration pneumonia. Up to 10% of everybody on this drug will develop chronic upper respiratory infections and pneumonia, which is the #1 killer of senior citizens. Come on, people. Up to 10% of people on Simonet for Parkinson's will develop and did develop asthenia and fatigue, the inability to feel stuff on your skin, like touch, urinary incontinence. All of you out there, that's not just age-related. The drugs they're putting on you make you pee all over yourself and have to wear diapers now. I'm sorry, that's not just age-related. It's drug-induced. These are their published side effects. 1 in 10 people on this drug in the trials had this problem. Metabolic, decreased weight up to 10% or more. Musculoskeletal problems, up to 10% experience back pain and shoulder pain. Just be ready. Here's the next drug for Parkinson's, Zalapar. Its brand name is Zalapar. Its generic name is Selegalin. Let's learn about Selegalin. Oh, insomnia, and up to more than 10% of all people will no longer be able to sleep. Up to 10% in all human trials on Selegalin developed anxiety or tension, confusion, depression, euphoria, hallucinations, illusions, sleeping disorders, and vivid dreams. Very common. More than 10% of all people on this drug for Parkinson's for gait issues, imbalance issues, experience dizziness, lightheadedness, and fainting. Notice the word very common. Very. They didn't even give you the percentage. They just know it's more than 10%. It could be 95%. Look at the more common one underneath nervous system. We highlighted it for you. Up to 10% of all people, 1 in 10, given this drug for Parkinson's, will have impaired balance due to the drug alone. Not sure that's a good idea for people already struggling with imbalance issues. What are some other published more common side effects of Selegalin for Parkinson's disease patients? Oh, postural hypertension. That's hypotension. Standing, getting dizzy, and wanting to fall. Okay, not sure that's a good idea for people who are already dizzy, don't have gait issues and imbalance issues. For the GI tract, more than 10% of people will have dry mouth, nausea, stomach pains, mouth ulcerations. For the eyes, more than up to 10% will have abnormal accommodation. Can't focus their eyeball or their vision. Very common for Selegalin, drug for Parkinson's, fatigue, and 10% or more of all people on that drug they experience chronic fatigue as a result of the drug. Not for being old-aged, the drug. Skin rashes in more than 10% of all. Ecchymosis. Up to 1 in 10 people on this drug will experience the bruising you see on the right. Now, all of you are probably used to seeing this in assisted living homes, nursing homes, and the elderly, or your grandparents, and you're like, oh, those are bruises from blood thinners. No, not always. Just so y'all know, that's rupturing blood vessels in your skin, pouring out blood into your skin. That's what you see. So this drug for Parkinson's destroys blood vessels in your skin. Oh, by the way, if it's doing that to the little blood vessels in your skin called capillaries, what's it doing to your aorta and your blood vessels in your body and all your arteries? All right. Up to 10% micturition disorder. I actually looked that up. I don't remember what it is now. But look that up. Oh, I do know what that is. That's urinary incontinence. You're going to pee all over yourself and be in a diaper. That is a very, very common side effect of the drug Selegalin, not old age. They're peeing all over themselves because they can't control their bladder. They can't control their muscles anymore. More than 10% of all people will experience that with this Parkinson drug. Anorexia and 10% or more. Very common. Musculoskeletal, up to 10% will have arthralgia, back pain, leg cramps, leg pain, low back pain, myalgia, musculoskeletal injuries, and muscle cramps. How in the world would any of that help people with Parkinson's who already have balance issues and movement issues? All right, let's look at this drug, brand name Mirapex. Generic name is these names are so funny. I don't even know it. Pramipexole. Pramipexole. There you go. That's what we'll call it. You see the picture on the right. This is also for Parkinson's. This is for early Parkinson's disease. Very common, though. 10% or more. 36% will experience somnolence. They just lay around the house and don't do anything all day. Dizziness in up to 1 in 4. 25%. Dyskinesia in 17%. That is Parkinson's symptoms. Dyskinesia. Oh, my God. 20% of you are going to experience that from the drug, too? Come on, man. advanced Parkinson's, they found this drug, pramipexole, Mirapex. They find that 10% or more, 47% will experience dyskinesia. What? Imbalance, inability to stay up straight, be able to walk. That happens in half the people. They know that 50% of all people on that drug, the drug causes that in them. And just to remind you all research studies on drugs are given to healthy young adults 18 to 30 who don't have Parkinson's. And when they gave them this drug, 47% of all these young healthy adults without Parkinson's started having Parkinson's symptoms from the drug. You ever wonder why it is your Parkinson's loved one's just getting worse over time while they're on their drugs for Parkinson's? The drugs for Parkinson's cause Parkinson's symptoms to worsen. And I'm about to show you some research studies where the researchers state emphatically that's the case. Dizziness in up to 26%. Seriously? People with imbalance and coordination issues. Look at cardiovascular failure. After the human trials, the healthy people, some of them died from heart failure from the drug. They didn't tell you what the percentage was because they died outside of the trial, but it was from the drug. 53% of all people on this drug, pramipexole, what a dumb name, postural hypotension, POTS, where you stand up and get dizzy or you roll over and get dizzy and fall down. How is that? 53% of all people on this drug who don't have Parkinson's in the human trials experience this symptom. How is that going to be helpful for Parkinson's patients? Ever wonder why they're all using walkers? Why they're all in wheelchairs? Don't want to go anywhere? That's why. How about those in advanced Parkinson's stages who are put on the same drug? Look at this. 47% experience dyskinesia. That dyskinesia is the descriptive signs and symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Oh my God, the drug causes Parkinson's symptoms. Dyskinesia, an impairment in the ability to control movements, characterized by spasmodic or repetitive motions or lack of coordination. Oh my goodness. Half of all people on that drug reported in the clinical trials the drug caused this incoordination of muscle movements called Parkinson's descriptive symptoms. You're welcome. Psychiatric, 10% or more, 17% on this drug for Parkinson's will experience hallucinations, insomnia, dream abnormalities, and confusion. Look at the uncommon. Up to 1% have pathological gambling as an issue on this drug. What? Oh my goodness. So if you have a Parkinson's loved one who's starting to have tremors and they're going to the casino, you might want to make sure they're not given this drug specifically. It'll make them gamble more. How many of you knew that? Until you watch the Dr. Ardis Show. How about GI problems? 28% will be nauseous and want to throw up. Another 15% will be constipated and can't poop. Guess that'll keep their diapers dry from the incontinence created by the drug. Arthritis. Up to 10% of all people will experience new arthritis symptoms. Thanks. Sounds great. Oh, let's go back. Urinary incontinence, and then 10% of all people, vision abnormalities, diplopia, that's double vision. How's that going to help somebody with coordination issues? Increased appetite, decreased weight, anorexia, all published side effects, and up to 10% of all people on this drug. How about old people being diagnosed with Parkinson's? Did you know that up to 10% of you for this drug, pramipexole, you can see it at the bottom of the screen, causes pneumonia? 1 in 10 people will develop pneumonia just from the drug. Lack of being able to feel your skin, 14%. Asthenia. Skin disorders, up to 10%. How do I treat Parkinson's? Here we go. Time to dive into the all-natural recommendations that don't have these dumb Parkinson's side effects listed as common or very common symptoms. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. All right, so here we go. Let's get into the real cool, the cool stuff right now. This is actually a medical published paper, peer-reviewed and published, titled, read the title, this should blow you away. N-acetylcysteine in the treatment of Parkinson's disease, period. What are we waiting for? I've never seen that question ever in the title of a medical paper. This is a supplement, N-acetylcysteine. In the treatment of Parkinson's disease, what are we waiting for? This medical researcher wants to know, why aren't neurologists who see Parkinson's patients, why are they not putting every single patient on N-acetylcysteine already? Now, let me show you why she's so stressed about this, or why he is so stressed about this. Here we go. NAC is the simplest cysteine prodrug that can be systematically administered to deliver cysteine to the brain, acting as a precursor for glutathione synthesis, as well as a stimulator of the cytosolic enzymes involved in glutathione regeneration. Glutathione is a substance made in your liver. It's an antioxidant that helps heal and repair nerves in the brain. Presynaptic, so before the synapse or connection of a nerve to another nerve, terminals of aged mice was proposed 10 years ago as evidence that NAC was able to cross the blood-brain barrier, having reparative effects on brain mitochondria against age-associated memory decline. Pay attention, all of you with early onset dementia, memory issues. NAC you should be on 2,000 milligrams right now. Don't stop. I keep telling you guys. Please don't forget it. N-acetylcysteine has been proven in supplement form to cross the blood-brain barrier and help repair brain nerves. Last sentence on the screen. We have shown that NAC can prevent dopamine-induced programmed cell death in cultured human neurons. Cortical being brain nerves. And also it can increase mitochondrial complex 4 specific activity both in vitro, in a lab, and in the human body. Administration of N-acetylcysteine increases brain levels of glutathione in mice and humans, and it reduces markers of oxidative damage, and it increases brain synapse. In vitro studies and the lab studies have shown that NAC is able to restore complex 1 age-related activity decline, suggesting a direct role of N-acetylcysteine on cysteine residues. It works to improve the brain and keep it healthy. This study demonstrates that NAC administration significantly stopped the reduction of dopamine transporter in the monkey brain 3 weeks after the administration of meth. So they put monkeys on meth. It damaged these cells in the brain, and NAC rescued glutathione stimulating hormone levels in the brain. It is likely that N-acetylcysteine would be a suitable substance for the treatment of neurotoxicity in dopaminergic nerve terminals related to the chronic use of meth in humans. Another way NAC has been explored to heal humans' brains is studying the effects of meth and its damage to the brain on those areas of the brain that are responsible for Parkinson's. There is growing evidence that NAC may play a role against programmed cell death in postmeiotic cells and oligodendritic cells in the labs. NAC can prevent oxidative stress accumulation, telomere shortening, the telomere of your DNA, these DNA strands. It protects against the shortening and cell death in the labs that disrupt mitochondrial electron transport function. It is conceivable that this thiolic antioxidant could act in the body against those things, PCD, in Parkinson's disease. N-acetylcysteine also inhibited the expression of CFOS and c-Jun genes and TGFB1 mediated apoptosis in human ovarian carcinoma cells. NAC inhibited the expression of genes that then allowed human ovarian cells that cause cancer cells to die. NAC is amazing. You might want to use it. Long-term treatment with N-acetylcysteine affected also NF-kappa beta signaling in the brain of mice by increasing cytoplasmic retention of this substance called NF-kappa, thus preventing its action as a transcription factor in the nucleus. Since increasing the activation of NF-kappa B may contribute to the disease process of Parkinson's disease, it's possible that NAC actions against the modification of this sulfhydryl group in the proteins involved in upregulating NF-kappa B pathway were linked to reduced NF-kappa beta activity in these models of Parkinson's, being another beneficial action of NAC. So the things that are linked to Parkinson's, NAC prevents. NAC can also inhibit tumor necrotic factor alpha, induced PCD in human neuronal Parkinson's disease symptom patients by preserving mitochondrial integrity and function, since N-acetylcysteine was able to partially prevent the mitochondrial membrane depolarization induced by this cytokine chemical, inflammatory chemical. These are the conclusions of the lady who wrote in your title, "What are we waiting for?" with NAC being given to Parkinson's patient. The present paper shows that many, not a few, many experimental data in the last 10 years support the concept that N-acetylcysteine may be a singular substance for the treatment and prevention of Parkinson's disease, and that a well-designed clinical trial is justified. The dose would be 2,000 milligrams of N-acetylcysteine. You get it at the Dr. Ardis Show. I'll show you what it looks like at the end of this presentation. N-acetylcysteine, this is the next study. This is from 2017, another peer-reviewed published medical paper. N-acetylcysteine is associated with dopaminergic improvement in Parkinson's disease. What? And there's the list of all the authors, starting with Daniel Monti. 42 patients, humans with Parkinson's disease, were randomized to either weekly intravenous infusions of NAC, N-acetylcysteine, at 50 milligrams for every kilogram, plus were given oral doses of 500 milligrams twice a day. So that's 1,000 milligrams for 3 months, or standard of care only, which is drugs. In the NAC group, significantly increased DAT binding was found in the caudate and putamen areas of the brain compared with controls, along with significantly improved Parkinson's disease symptoms. Did you catch that? The N-acetylcysteine group had an increased, significantly improvement in Parkinson's disease compared to the drug-treated group. The results suggest that NAC may positively affect the dopaminergic symptoms or system in patients with Parkinson's disease. You're welcome. Ask your doctor if N-acetylcysteine is right for you and your loved one who's been diagnosed with Parkinson's. In fact, you don't even have to ask them. You can just show them the research study and then go get it for them. Or when your medical doctor asks you, "Is there anything that's changed since the last time I saw you, Mary, with your Parkinson's symptoms?" Say, "Yes, I've been taking N-acetylcysteine." Why? Because of the Dr. Ardis Show. Wait, that's not recommended. Yes, it is. Here's the medical research studies. I just gave it to you. You can print them out, hand them to them, hand them this PowerPoint in the resources tab of the Dr. Ardis Show. Now, this is a medical research journal called Neural Regeneration Research, which literally means brain cell regrowth research. Emergence of taurine, an amino acid, as a therapeutic agent for neurological disorders. Let's see what they say. Now, just so you know, a lot of this is very scientific terminology. I try to break it down for you in layman's terms. You just need, I cannot tell you, go try taurine without showing you why I'm saying taurine works and why you should start supplementing it. So the top of the screen reads Parkinson's disease and therapeutic use of taurine. Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder of the pars compacta substantia nigra. We already read that to you from Cleveland Clinic. Patients suffering from Parkinson's disease has symptoms such as rigidity, resting tremor, postural instability, and bradykinesia. This is due to the loss of nigrostriatal dopaminergic dopamine neurons, which causes oxidative stress, brain inflammation, mitochondrial complex 1 dysfunction, and impaired ATP production. Taurine was shown to reduce dopaminergic neurodegeneration in mice and humans intoxicated with 2 chemicals, paraquat and maneb, resulting in motor deficits. So they induced Parkinson's symptoms in mice. Then they gave them taurine. Taurine, look at this, inhibited microglial activation and M1 polarization in the toxic chemically treated groups of animals, as well as the expression of pro-inflammatory factors in the parts of the brain indicated in Parkinson's from these chemicals. Taurine stopped the damage of those chemicals. Taurine inhibits, I don't even want to read all this to you because it's very scientific, but taurine inhibits the membrane translocation or movement of phagocyte oxidase, NF-kappa B, both of which are involved in the induction of and maintenance of microglial inflammation, leading to Parkinson's symptoms. Microglial inflammation, cells in the brain inflammation, is associated with neurodegenerative processes in Parkinson's disease. Taurine reduces the inflammation of microglia, triggered by these chemicals, which are also used as pesticides and insecticides. Activation of microglia and innate immune cells in the brain is an indicator of activation of the inflammatory process. Taurine, next medical research study done with taurine and Parkinson's. This is in Cell Death and Disease, published in 2018. Taurine protects dopaminergic neurons in a mouse Parkinson's disease model through inhibition, blocking of microglial M1 polarization, the type of cells leading to Parkinson's symptoms. And in this present study, we demonstrated that taurine provides potent beneficial effects in these P plus M chemical-induced Parkinson's models. The salient features of our study were these. The findings of our studies were these. Taurine ameliorated or resolved the progressive dopamine neurodegeneration in these mice, which was associated with improvement of their motor activity in those mice. What's the problem with Parkinson's in humans? They have motor dysfunction. Taurine improves it. And we've already shown multiple research studies here of why they investigate chemicals and drugs in mice before they give it to humans. And they publish, if it happens in a mouse, it will happen in a human. Why? They state that every mouse has every gene every human being does. That's why they study mice first before human trials. So everything I'm reading here, when I say it happened in a mouse, it'll happen in a human. That's why they study all drugs and chemicals in mice first. Taurine also stopped P&M-induced synuclein oligomerization in mice, destruction of other cells in their brain. Taurine suppressed that inflammatory response. Taurine mitigated the induced damage from these chemicals. Two key factors for this polarization effect on the cells in the brain leading to Parkinson's symptoms. In this study, we found that these two drugs, these two insecticides, exposure resulted in loss of dopamine neurons in mice and in a time-dependent manner, indicating a progressive pattern of degeneration, worsening of their Parkinson's symptoms. Administering taurine attenuated or stopped the dopamine neurodegeneration and the induction of damage from these two chemicals called oligomerization, which was associated with improvement, we're talking about taurine, with improved motor performance in mice. The protective efficacy of taurine in a progressive Parkinson's model suggests that taurine might be a promising candidate for future human studies. You might want to ask yourself, why haven't they done those studies yet? Why hasn't Big Pharma funded those studies yet? Taurine's not a drug, it's a supplement. The conclusions are this. This study provides convincing evidence that taurine potently reduced dopaminergic neurodegeneration and alpha-synuclein oligomerization through suppression of the microglia M1 polarization via NOX2 NF-kappa beta pathway in a two pesticide and chemicals induced Parkinson's model. Taurine not only prevented the generation of a spectrum of pro-inflammatory factors, but also suppressed oxidative damage. Please pay attention to me. They can induce a Parkinson's model in animals using pesticides. All of our processed non-organic foods in America are loaded with pesticides. Yet they tell you, we don't know what causes Parkinson's. They can create Parkinson's in animals using pesticides that are in our food, people. Wake up. This is why the organic foods, the filtered water is so important in our discussions at Healing for the Ages and the Dr. Ardis Show. In labs, they know how to make an animal develop Parkinson's symptoms, and they use two pesticides to do it. Taurine stops that damage. N-acetylcysteine is protective against those chemical-induced Parkinson's symptoms and even meth-induced Parkinson's symptoms. Now let's go to quercetin. Quercetin protects against neuronal toxicity and how it does it. In these chemicals, the same drugs, these insecticides that induce Parkinson's disease. Quercetin is a cure. This is another published article. Quercetin significantly improved motor deficits in these chemically induced mice. It reduced neuronal atrophy, death of these cells, and preserved TH plus dopaminergic neurons, those responsible for Parkinson's symptoms. Western blotting analysis revealed that quercetin upregulated anti-inflammatory interleukin-10 and TGF while suppressing pro-inflammatory interleukin-1 beta. The conclusion of this from quercetin, that's the scientific nerdy stuff. Let's give you some of the lay people stuff you can understand. Quercetin alleviates, improves Parkinson's disease processes called pathology by inhibiting brain inflammation, nerve inflammation, reducing cell death of nerves in the brain, and activating these pathways: PI3K, AKT, GSK-3 beta pathway. These findings underscore its potential, quercetin, as a multi-target therapeutic agent for Parkinson's disease. Ask your neurologist if quercetin is right for you or your loved one with Parkinson's. And when they say, why in the world would you think that? You'd say, oh, because I read the research studies and the highlights of those studies on the Dr. Ardis Show. Quercetin administration abrogates, stops the Parkinson's disease like motor and non-motor symptoms, and attenuates the behavior, neurochemical and biochemical deficits induced by rotenone toxicity in rats. Now they're going to take rats, they're going to use a chemical used as an insecticide called rotenone. They're going to inject that into animals and give them quercetin before and after, and they want to see what happens. By the way, this rotenone is a chemical known to induce, I'm not joking, known to induce infertility also. Rats were pre and post administered with quercetin at 50 milligrams for every 2.2 pounds of body weight for 2 weeks, following rotenone 1.5 milligrams for every 2.2 pounds of body weight, administered for 8 days. So they gave it before quercetin and after these 8 days. After the treatment, behavioral activities were monitored for motor activity, depression, and cognitive changes. I just need you guys to understand. They're evaluating how animals behave when we give them supplements or nutrients after inducing a neurological disease with drugs, chemicals, like pesticides. They know what pesticides do to humans. They know what chemicals do to humans. You might want to start using these supplements because we're all being bombarded with these chemicals in our food, air, water supply, vaccines, drugs, you name it, cosmetics. The results showed that pre and post supplementation of quercetin significantly restored retinone-induced motor and non-motor deficits. So where they couldn't control their function anymore, quercetin restored it. Moreover, quercetin supplementation significantly enhanced antioxidant enzyme activities and dopamine. Okay, I showed you the drugs that they give for Parkinson's, levodopa, cardopa. These are all dopamine drugs. Did you know quercetin increases dopamine all by itself? And 5-HT levels, as you see on the screen. Quercetin pre and post supplementation improves the neurotransmitter levels by inhibiting oxidative stress via increasing antioxidant enzyme activities. And hence it improves motor activity, cognitive function, and reverses depression behavior. The results of this present study suggest that quercetin pre-supplementation produced more significant results as compared to post-supplementation. You might want to start supplementing with quercetin right now before you ever get diagnosed with Parkinson's, because these chemicals are going to keep coming that they know causes Parkinson's symptoms over time. Ask your doctor if quercetin is right for you. Now let's look at selenium. So now we've talked about NAC. We've talked about selenium. We're about to talk about selenium. We've talked about quercetin. And what was the other one? I don't even remember. We'll get to that here in just a second. There's a summary article here in just a second. All right, selenium-containing compounds, a new hope for innovative treatments in Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. This is very exciting. Wait till you see one infographic out of this research study. It's phenomenal. They're going to show you what triggers multiple neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, MS, Parkinson's. You're going to see all the chemicals that are going up and down that cause the symptoms of those diseases. Then they're going to show you a little arrow that says selenium and what it does for each of those markers in the blood of all of those people with these conditions. It improves all of them. All right, so this is called selenomethionine, which is the exact form of selenium in my selenium supplement at the Dr. Ardis Show. They called this compound 27. Compound 27 showed significant protective effects against 6-OHDA-induced dopamine neuron damage. It improved behavioral outcomes and reduced oxidative stress levels. Compared with the approved Parkinson's disease drugs, so picture any prescription drug for Parkinson's, compared with FDA-approved Parkinson's drugs, compound 27, which is selenium, exhibited greater ameliorative effects dissolving effects, and it induced nuclear translocation of SKN1, as well as increased mRNA levels of SKN1, GST4, and GCS1 in the C. elegans Parkinson's disease model. Isn't that amazing? When compared to the FDA-approved Parkinson's drugs, compound 27, known as selenium. No one reading this paragraph would have went compound 27, whatever that is. No, it's selenium. They tell you right above there. Selenoethers, selenium derivatives, are the main group. Compound 28, not 27, was tested in 2 neurodegenerative disease models. Just so you know, compound 28 is another form of selenium. Compound 28 exhibited protective effects against learning and memory impairment, as well as anxiety in the mouse model, therefore in humans also. In the fruit flies, compound 28 demonstrated multiple positive effects, including the restoration of DA levels, dopamine levels, improvement in ROT-induced death rates, and locomotor deficits. Now they moved better. Reduction in oxidative damage, enhancement of antioxidant defenses, and the anti-cholinesterase action. Additionally correlated with selenium levels in fly heads. They do a lot of research with these flies. I find it interesting. Another selenium compound examined in Parkinson's disease in animals is the alpha-phenylselenol acetylphenone compound known as compound 29 in this research study. Compound 29 reduced immobility time and increased swimming time without altering climbing behavior in reserpinized mice, poisoned with drugs mice, which indicated an antidepressant-like effect. Selenium has an antidepressant effect. Moreover, compound 29 exhibited potent antioxidant activity in mouse brain homogenates, inhibiting lipid peroxidation induced by sodium nitroprusside. Now, this is another chemical and pesticide used that causes this neurodegenerative problem we see as Parkinson's in humans. Dominique and his colleagues, that's the name of the researcher, investigated an organic selenium compound called Silol for its effect on lipopolysaccharide-mediated inflammation in the rat brain. When peripherally administered, compound 30 demonstrated protective effects, significantly preventing LPS, lipopolysaccharide-mediated inflammation, evoked changes. Compound 30 effectively mitigated these effects by inhibiting oxidase glutathione accumulation and enhanced the activity and expression of key antioxidant enzymes, including GPX, glutathione reductase, and TRXR1 for all you nerds out there. Selenium in the therapy of neurological diseases. Where is it going? This is the medical journal called Current Neuropharmacology, Brain Drugs. In lab studies, in previous lab studies, they pointed out the neuroprotective effect of selenium against various toxins that cause permanent symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Wait, hold up. Do you remember the very first medical clinic? I think it was Cleveland Clinic I showed you here earlier. They said there is no known cause of Parkinson's disease. Let's read this first sentence again. Previous studies in labs pointed to the neuroprotective effect, the brain protective effect of selenium against various toxins that cause permanent symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Oh, they know. Selenium dietary supplementation reduced the generation of reactive nitrogen species and ameliorated the reduction of glutathione peroxidase levels induced by methamphetamine, meth use, and dopaminergic neurons. We showed that study. Sodium selenite, selenium blocked the decrease in dopaminergic levels and its metabolites caused by the administration of methamphetamines. It was also documented that selenium prevented dopaminergic cell death in mice. Mice are called murine, selenium and SN induced by the administration of those same insecticides or pesticides. Sodium, salt, selenium enhance the activity of all of these things. Both, I'm going to read the second sentence below. Both in vitro in the lab and in the body, research has suggested that epsilon reversed the toxic effects mediated by those two chemicals known as pesticides and prevented dopamine cell death, thus leading to improvement in motor performance, locomotor activity, and neurological score. We're still talking about selenium here. Apart from increasing glutathione peroxidase activity, epsilon a selenium compound, was shown to act directly on mitochondrial complex 1 activity, thus leading to a decrease in free radical generation and energy deficits. Recent studies have identified selenium as crucial for preserving brain function and preventing age-related neurodegenerative disorders. I repeat, selenium at the Dr. Ardis Show. Selenomethionine is the version. Recent studies have identified selenium as a crucial for preserving brain function and preventing age-related neurodegenerative disorders. An insufficient supply of selenium may have a detrimental effect on brain cells by exacerbating neuronal dysfunction and nerve death. The biological function of selenium in the brain, especially in relation to the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory functions of selenoproteins, has also opened up new potential possibilities for treatment of neurodegenerative diseases by using selenium as a potential drug. Selenium's a nutrient. Most of y'all knew selenium before you probably ever listened to my stuff. The only time you ever heard about selenium was it was in Brazil nuts. You know, it's about the only thing I ever talk about. This is the slide I was looking forward to showing everybody. On the left column is titled diseases, and you'll see these different neurological diseases: Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsy, cerebral ischemia. Now on the right, you'll see the cell protective effects of the same brain cells implicated in the disease on the left. You're going to see what's the impact of selenium supplementation and treatment for those conditions. On the left, you will see all the things that are wrong in the human body that leads to the defined medical diseases called Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsy, and cerebral ischemia. When you supplement selenium in those people, the opposite happens in all of those things on the left that are implicated to worsen the diseases named Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsy, cerebral ischemia. I'm not even going to review all those. Just look at the list. It's incredible. Just look at the left. Let's look at Alzheimer's disease. Look at the last one. You'll see an increase in inflammatory responses in the brain. Well, when you take selenium, look what it does to those inflammatory responses in Alzheimer's disease. It reduces it. What about dopamine? Parkinson's disease, look at the first thing. Down arrow, less dopamine in the body. Look what happens when you take selenium treatment for those with Parkinson's. It raises their dopamine levels. Ask your doctor if selenium is right for you. All right, now this is going to be fun for me. I look forward to this. This is probably one of the most shocking things I revealed a couple years ago in the previous PowerPoint for Parkinson's called Beating Parkinson's. But I'm going to review the exact same published paper. This is fun. Alpha-7 nicotine receptors as therapeutic targets for Parkinson's disease. Oh, what? Nicotine receptors? Yeah, this is 2015, 10 years ago. Accumulating evidence. Just follow along the blue highlighted statements. I'm just going to read them straight through. Accumulating evidence suggests that central nervous system alpha-7 nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, abbreviated NACHRS, are important targets for the development of therapeutic approaches for Parkinson's disease. So they're saying there's these alpha-7 nicotine receptors in the brain. We should be finding ways to stimulate those to improve Parkinson's disease. Well, by the name of the receptors, nicotine receptors, you should know what they're about to talk about. This progressive neurodegenerative disorder called Parkinson's disease is characterized by debilitating motor deficits, as well as autonomic problems, cognitive declines, changes in affect, and sleep disturbances. Currently, L-DOPA, carbidopa, levodopa, is the gold standard treatment for Parkinson's disease motor problems, particularly in the early disease stages. Keep following along. Extensive preclinical work using a wide variety of experimental models shows that nicotine and NACHR agonists protect against damage to nigrostriatal and other neuron cells. Nicotine protects the same cells that are implicated in Parkinson's. This observation suggests that nicotine may be useful as a disease-modifying agent. Now, I want to go above. I'm going to go to the slide above. Whoops. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Let's go back into the PowerPoint. This is what I wanted to show you. I apologize. All right, so I want to go to the previous slide here. Okay. I want y'all to read this sentence after the blue one. L-DOPA drugs. However, it does not improve the other symptoms, nor does it reduce the inevitable disease progression. Do you see that? These drugs do not reduce the inevitable disease progression, yet this is the only drugs your neurologists are going to throw at all of you. If it doesn't stop the disease from coming, why even take them? And then they state, look at the next sentence, new therapeutic strategies for Parkinson's disease are therefore critical. The drugs we're using right now and prescribing don't work. Okay, they don't stop the progression. All right, so let's keep going here. Additionally, studies in several Parkinsonian animal models, including non-human primates, show that nicotine reduces L-DOPA-induced dyskinesia. L-DOPA, by the way, is a drug. L-DOPA is a drug, a prescription drug. L-DOPA induces dyskinesia, a side effect of L-DOPA therapy that may be as incapacitating as Parkinson's disease itself. Holy crap. Zoom in, pause, screenshot, share. This is insane. They are telling you the drugs, L-DOPA drugs, levodopa and cardopa, I just showed you. They show you studies in several Parkinson's models, including non-human primates, show that nicotine reduces L-DOPA prescription drugs for Parkinson's induced dyskinesia. A side effect of L-DOPA drugs therapy that may be as incapacitating as Parkinson's disease itself. The drug L-DOPA can be even more incapacitating than Parkinson's disease you've been diagnosed with. The treatment can be worse than the disease. And nicotine has been proven in different animal studies, including primates, to actually stop L-DOPA drugs from causing this worse effect in Parkinson's modeled animals. Holy crap, what? It's those drugs. If you're wondering why your Parkinson's loved one's getting worse, there's a reason. They're being poisoned to death. Work with subtype selective nicotinic acetylcholine receptor agonist indicate, which is nicotine is one of them, indicate that alpha-7 nicotine receptors are involved in mediating both the neuroprotective and anti-dyskinetic effects, thus offering a targeted strategy with optimal beneficial effects and minimal adverse reactions. This work suggests that alpha-7 nicotine receptors may be useful targets for reducing Parkinson's disease progression and for the management of the dyskinesias that arises with L-DOPA drug management. It doesn't matter if you're not on L-DOPA drugs or you are. If you've got Parkinson's symptoms, they're telling you nicotine should be considered. Ask your doctor if nicotine is right for you. Now, we're still in the published medical research study about nicotine and Parkinson's. An extensive literature demonstrated a reduced risk of Parkinson's disease among current and former smokers, which correlated with smoking duration, intensity, and recentness. The more someone smoked tobacco products or cigarette products, tobacco, the more use of tobacco products, the less likely those individuals were diagnosed with Parkinson's or developed it. And the more recent their use, the less likely they were diagnosed with Parkinson's. Why? Because nicotine is protective. This decline in Parkinson's disease was also observed with other forms of tobacco and with environmental smoke exposure. Moreover, the incidence of Parkinson's disease with twin pairs was less in the twin that smoked than in the one that doesn't smoke. Holy crap, what? I've actually gone through that research study, reference number 11 there. They took twins, looked at them all over the world. The twin that smokes and uses tobacco products and the twin that doesn't. The twin that doesn't use tobacco products had a much higher increase rate of being diagnosed with Parkinson's than the tobacco twin. Let me just explain that to you in layman's terms and in medical terms. That means Parkinson's cannot be blamed on genetics. You've got twins, identical twins that have the same genes, but those that use tobacco don't develop Parkinson's, and the ones that don't develop it. This is where the whole, it's only a genetic disorder, totally falls apart. If it was just genetic, it wouldn't matter if they use tobacco or not. The greater majority of studies are consistent with the idea that the reduced frequency of Parkinson's disease is due to a true biological effect of tobacco use. Now you're learning also why The big pharmaceutical giants of the world hate tobacco and nicotine products. The results of the above studies, of which they're referencing 4, you'll see the numbers 13, 14, 15, 16 in order. The results of the above studies, coupled with the finding that nicotine, a key component in tobacco products, stimulates dopamine release, led to the premise that nicotine may underlie the beneficial effect of smoking in Parkinson's disease. Ask your neurologist if picking up a cigarette is right for you, because it actually would. Organic is better, obviously. Okay, but read this again. I have to just read this. Let's go over this slowly one more time. The first sentence at the top of the screen. The results of the above studies, coupled with the finding that nicotine, a key component in tobacco products, stimulates dopamine release. What do they say is the major blame for Parkinson's? Reduced dopamine. Oh my God, nicotine raises it? Of course they want to ban nicotine agents around the world by the year 2030. Extensive, not a couple, extensive studies now substantiate this hypothesis. Experimental evidence shows that nicotine partially protects against nigrostriatal and other forms of central nervous system damage. Moreover, nicotine administration reduces the abnormal involuntary movements or dyskinesia that arise as a side effect of L-DOPA treatment for Parkinson's disease motor symptoms. Oh my God, what? The drugs make Parkinson's symptoms worse? And nicotine blocks that? Multiple nicotine populations exist in the brain, nicotine receptors in the brain, with several subtypes implicated in these beneficial effects of nicotine. This review will focus on the role of alpha-7 nicotine receptors. There's alpha-9, alpha-5, there's all kinds of them. And we will discuss the potential utility of alpha-7 nicotine agonist, which nicotine is, as a novel treatment strategy for Parkinson's disease to reduce the disease progression and alleviate the drugs prescribed for Parkinson's induced Parkinson's symptoms called dyskinesias. Is this shocking to you? It's shocking to me. All right, I'm going to read this statement, then I'm going to show you some stuff I want you to look at on the screen. Although L-DOPA drugs prescribed for Parkinson's very successfully treat Parkinson's disease motor symptoms, LIDs develop in the majority of patients by 10 years on L-DOPA drugs for Parkinson's. All right, stay with me. Look at the screen. What is LIDs? LIDs stands for L-DOPA-induced Parkinson symptoms, called dyskinesias. And this drug is what induces LIDs. And this drug is prescribed for Parkinson's. So are L-DOPA and carbidopa drugs. Although L-DOPA very successfully treats Parkinson's disease motor symptoms, LIDs, Parkinson's symptoms, develop in the majority of patients by year 10 who were being put on L-DOPA drugs. Ask your doctor if worsening Parkinson's in the next 10 years is right for your loved one when they prescribe these drugs. The summary of this study is, emerging studies suggest that alpha-7 drugs may be useful, nicotine, may be useful in the management of Parkinson's disease. Of particular importance is the finding that alpha-7 agonists, which nicotine is, have disease-modifying potential as they protect against nigrostriatal deficits in Parkinsonian non-human primate and rodent models. In addition, alpha-7 nicotine receptors mediate neuroprotective effects against numerous other toxic insults, chemicals, pesticides, you name it, and drugs like L-DOPA drugs, and thus will be of benefit against some of the other central nervous system deficits associated with Parkinson's disease. Ask your neurologist if nicotine products are right for your loved one struggling with Parkinson's. And what are the ones I would recommend the most? This brand right here, Tolavita. These are nicotine patches, all natural ingredients such as orange peel, quercetin, clove oils in them, and natural tobacco extract. Tolavita.com, clear patches, brown patches that match your skin. You learn how to use these in my book, Moving Beyond the COVID-19 Lies, or look up our nicotine PDF reference guide at the resources tab. Tolavita.com. You go to their website, put in my last name, all capitals, ARDIS. They save 10% off of these all natural nicotine patches, which I use every day and have for months. My wife wears them every day also. I trust them. Therefore, I would expect you can too. All right, here is N-acetylcysteine. We showed you the research studies here on the beneficial impact. This is the one that was titled, "What are we waiting for with Parkinson's disease?" This substance, N-acetylcysteine, works. We recommend 2,000 milligrams a day of N-acetylcysteine. Taurine, you see the 500 milligrams there? This is what I recommend, at least 1 capsule a day. 2 would be even better in the Parkinson's model. Here's our Quercetin Plus, 500 milligrams a day. 1 capsule enough should be plenty. You can do 2 if you wanted to for more severe cases. But for prevention, Quercetin 1, taurine prevention 1, N-acetylcysteine prevention 1, treatment 2,000 milligrams, treatment 2 a day, Quercetin Plus 2 a day. Selenium, this one's important here. Selenium. I've already done podcasts and presentations with selenium researchers out of Africa years ago on the Dr. Ardis Show. We talk about all the human studies in which they've used 200 micrograms a day up to 1.2 milligrams. That's 6 times the dose in 1 capsule here you see. So anywhere between 200 micrograms up to 6 times more than that, 1.2 milligrams, is a safe use of selenium, proven in all human studies. The FDA says the upper limit is 200 micrograms. That is the amount that's inside of our Nature Wins selenium. If you just took 1 a day. People with Parkinson's, I would recommend doing 3 of these at a minimum, up to 6 a day of these if it's real severe. I showed you the studies. Go back and look at the PDF, download this PowerPoint, and read the benefits of selenium in Parkinson's models. Reread the N-acetylcysteine, quercetin, and taurine, and nicotine research studies and their highlights so you can grasp why it is you need to educate your loved ones or yourself or your medical professional on why you're adding these things to your daily regimen. That is the end of my Dr. Ardis' Answers to Parkinson's presentation. If you enjoyed this PowerPoint, you want this PowerPoint, go to the Resources tab, download it, send it, share it, do whatever you want. It'll be in the Resources tab at the Dr. Ardis Show. Please share this far and wide with everybody you know who's struggling with Parkinson's. They have no hope, and the only hope they've been given by their medical professionals are drugs I just showed you are published to make all their Parkinson's symptoms worse, even as stated by the researchers on Parkinson's, the medical scientific researchers. They said the drug side effects creating Parkinson's symptoms can often be worse than the disease itself. You need to know you have options. I'm Dr. Ardis. God bless you all. I look forward to seeing you next time on the Dr. Ardis Show.